You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
Hello, my beautiful weebs. Welcome back for a special episode of Inspired by a Weeaboo. I am your host, Katrina, and with me is my husband, Stephen.
Hello.
Today we are doing a very special episode, and instead of just jumping into our next season, we are going to talk about an anime that me and Stephen came across that neither of us has ever seen. And we watched the first season and we absolutely fell in love with it. And that anime is called Spy Family.
Mm-hmm.
Steven, why don't you go ahead and talk about what kind of drew you to it?
I mean, obviously we've been watching a lot of anime for these seasons, and I remember when this show, because it's fairly new, I think it only started last year, and I had seen a lot of advertisements for it. Everybody's just kind of be like, Spy Family, and it just seemed like there was a buzz going on around about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of put it in the back of my head and thought, okay, maybe we'll look at it at some point, but I wasn't thinking immediately.
Yeah.
It was just one of those that you kind of hear people talking about. It's like, okay, cool. There's a new thing. We'll look at it. And I never thought that we would actually just jump in and watch it at any point. I felt like if it was anything, you would discover it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would be like, oh my God, this new anime is so cool. We got to watch it like you normally do with so many.
Yeah.
And I just, I was expecting that's how it would kind of go about. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if you remember us, we probably briefly touched on it last season. We caught COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Toward the end of last season, and some of our episodes were recorded within that bubble. And I think it was also right at the ass end of our COVID isolation, I guess that's the best term for it, that I don't know, we had a discussion. I don't guess we really had anything we were watching at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And we just said, you want to give it a shot? And I was like, yeah, sure. Because I'd heard things. I think you'd heard stuff from your sister about it.
Yes.
And we were just like, fuck it. Let's give it a watch. And I think we watched 6 or 7 episodes that first night.
Yeah.
And kind of, I don't know, we just got sucked in. It really surprised us, or at least me, how much, I don't know, we just got drawn into the whole thing. And
like, first and foremost, I feel like this is one of the first animes. Like, I have had animes like Inuyasha where I have watched a episode or something like that, and I've been so attached to this character for so long that I get so emotionally invested that when something bad happens, it like hurts my soul.
mm-hmm.
But I can remember from like the very first episode of Spy Family, us making the comment about Anya.
Yeah.
And how just like certain things, it was just like, ouch. Like you just wanted to pick this little girl up and fucking love her from the very first episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what sucked us in about it. Because I don't know what I was expecting. Because my sister did tell me a little bit about it before I started watching it. But before she had ever told me about it, I had seen, pictures and stuff like that. I'm on a lot of fan pages on Facebook for anime. And I saw, posts about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess nothing really had caught my attention. So I was just kind of like, I don't know. But then when Kimmy started talking about it, and then when, we came across it when we had nothing else to watch, and we were just like, you know what? Let's give it a try. And from episode 1... you're just absorbed into the story and everything about this little girl. Mm-hmm. And I will say, I was kind of worried that one of us was going to get super annoyed by her voice because we both have that kind of quirk about us where it's just certain tones for long periods of time. It's like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
But with her, and even kind of the baby talking she does, even though she's not like little bitty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's just something about it. It's almost like an innocence, even though she's not stupid by any means. She's she can be very smart.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, up to within the first season, I think this is the other thing that keeps you coming back for more, is because they're only laying like little breadcrumbs about who she possibly is or what she possibly is.
Yeah.
And by the end of the first season, you still have no fucking clue other than what little bit you find out about her, which is hardly anything.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that too. And I guess I can kind of give them props for this, because I was really surprised that by the end of the first season, we don't feel like we've progressed very much with this family.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that as like any of the episodes were boring or that nothing's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's just happening at a very slow pace. But if you think of the complexity of the situation, because if you're unfamiliar with this anime at all, and maybe you kind of jumped in here, kind of give you a TLDR, the main character seems to be a guy by the name of Agent Twilight. Mm-hmm. And he takes on the identity of Lloyd Forger.
Mm-hmm.
He has to infiltrate this school to get close to a guy who would have, I think it's secrets or information, because there are two countries at war. In fact, I tried to pull some of this information up so we had it. Westalis and Ostania. And they're like in this Cold War situation, and the political differences and everything kind of going on. That's where a lot of this is kind of stemming from. And Lloyd is meant to infiltrate, get close to this guy so he can get information, which can then in turn hopefully lead to the end of this war.
By using a child.
Yeah, that's where it gets complicated, because the school that he has to infiltrate has a very strict code. So he's not a married man. He has no children, but he has to put together this facade. So he has to find a wife. He has to find a kid. He has to enroll her in said school. He has to go through all this pomp and circumstance to even get her into the school. And then she has to maintain her grades and hopefully get to a certain, because there was a very specific stature that her grades had to reach so she could be in this special group.
Yeah.
Which would then in turn get him even closer to the guy he's after.
Yes. Which is Desmond.
Desmond.
The last name is Desmond.
So when you think about all of that.
Yeah.
And how complex just the base premise is, I can't fault them for pushing through all this, because it's a very delicate balance. Yeah. Because there's a lot going on. Furthermore, he picks Anya up out of like, what was it, an adoption agency?
It was an orphanage.
No, yeah, an orphanage.
Goes to an orphanage and is just talking about how he's, there to adopt a child and all this kind of stuff, and just meets this little girl. And at first he's like, she doesn't catch his eye. But you find out Anya has special abilities where she can read people's minds. And she does not tell people about it, which is basically one of the many running gags throughout the series. But her using her ability is basically what gets Lloyd to lock onto her, and is like, okay, she's going, she might work out. Well, in Anya's eyes, she absolutely loves the fact that, her father is a spy.
Oh, yeah. Like that was one of the things you find out early on about Anya, is she lives in kind of a fantasy world, not like in where she can't discern reality from fiction, but the idea of it.
A typical child.
Yeah.
She's like 6 years old. So
the moment she gets a hint that he's a spy, she's like, oh, well, I've got to help Dad. I've got to help do all these things, because if he does this and then I help him and then all this works out, then, everything's perfect. So she's got it in her head that if she does what she needs to help him succeed in his mission, then their family's going to be perfect and everything's going to be great. And you understand it through a child's mind.
Yes. not understand, like she...
The bigger picture. It's like just
Yes.
for her, just the simplicity of it. Help dad's problem. Family's
Yes.
perfect.
Yes.
You know, that's as simple as it gets in her mind.
And that's one of the adorable things about her. Because she can be conniving and so freaking tricky because of her abilities and stuff like that. But it's like every instant or scenario she's kind of in, it works out.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, it's a kind of a feel-good anime anyway. But it's just crazy that, you know, this man, he goes, he adopts a child, he later finds somebody to be his wife, and it all pretty much works out, even though there's so many episodes where it goes so off the fucking walls, crazy, just, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's one episode I want to talk about. It's like the whole spy organization. That's another thing. This man, he works for a spy organization. He's basically like the James Bond of this universe.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an episode where they're trying to like do something for Anya, and they have all the fucking spies from like all around the world come in, and they do like this big game where it's basically reenacting the show that she's obsessed with, which is a spy show, which is like fucking James Bond.
Now, that was that her birthday, or was it something else they did for her?
I can't remember.
'Cause I felt like they were doing it for something special, and I wasn't sure if it was her birthday or not. I can't remember, but I remember that episode.
Yeah, I can't remember. I just remember sitting there thinking like, oh my God, the leaps and bounds they go through to entertain a 6-year-old girl who they think has no idea what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And secretly she knows everything that's going on because she can read their minds.
But see, now that's the other thing too. Even as she knows something, she also seems a little out of the loop. Like she
Yes.
knows stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Again, through mind reading and everything. So she has glimpses of what is actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
But in a child's mind, she misconstrues some of the details, filling in gaps that make sense to her.
Yes.
So she makes wild assumptions at times that are like, oh, all right, bring it back a little bit because you're going off into far off territory that's nothing.
Yeah.
Nowhere near what you're thinking, but you know, good on you for trying. But yeah.
I mean, then you have those other episodes. Like there was one when she meets the dog.
Mm-hmm.
And
The dog. What was his name? I can't remember what they called him.
he sees what is it? He sees the future.
Yes, that's
Yes.
right.
The dog sees the future, and of course, since Anya can read minds, she's able to see what he's seeing or understand what he's seeing to a point.
We should have remembered the dog's name, Bond.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Because her favorite show is Bondman. You know,
Yeah, Bondman.
the detective anime character who she thinks her dad is.
Yeah,
or Lloyd.
pretty much.
Yeah, and that's and that's another thing too. I do like is that she latches on to this family hard,
Oh,
and I'm
yeah.
really hoping that as seasons progress, we understand. I understand she came from an orphanage, but it was almost like I have a dad now, and I'm not going to do anything to mess this up. And then when Yor comes into the picture, she has a full family. The dog comes in. She's like everything she's ever wanted, and that's one of her biggest hang-ups, I guess, throughout the episodes is that she is so worried that she's going to do something to screw it up and that the family's going to fall apart and she won't have her mom and her dad. Despite the arrangement, because we haven't even talked about Yor yet and how all this came about, because Lloyd and Yor, when they bumped into one another, it was almost like an arrangement. Like they both needed something from one another. Yeah,
Yor needed to marry somebody, but she couldn't because she's an assassin.
Right.
So she, has this, like Lloyd. That's the whole trope, people. If you have not seen this, is Anya has a secret. She's hiding from everybody. Lloyd has a secret. He's hiding from everybody. Yor has a secret. She's hiding from everybody.
Yeah.
And all three of them do not know each of their fucking secrets.
And
except for Anya. She knows that her father is a spy. She knows that, Lloyd is a spy. And she knows that Yor is an assassin. But she does not tell them she knows this or plays into her leading on that she knows it, but she does things to help them and they kind of question it, but then it just goes out the window because Anya does something stupid and they're just like, no, that can't be. That can't be right.
She's very good at downplaying her ability to the point where they have yet to suspect it. I think there's been once or twice where Lloyd's like, he's thinking on it, but that is the farthest thing from his mind is that she is reading minds.
Yeah.
He hasn't quite figured out what it is. It's just something just didn't set right with him and he thought on it and was like, and then just moves along. So, yeah, I could see where that would be a hard thing because that's not what you're going to be thinking of.
Yeah.
So when she's doing these interesting little things, and even what you said about her with Yor, I don't even know if she knows exactly what she does as an assassin or
I know that there was an instance where she says, Mommy kills people, but it was all in her head and it was after Yor had come home and thought something.
Yeah. And then I honestly feel like a lot of that also brings in a lot of some of the best comedic elements is when you see Yor trying to be a proper mother figure to Anya. And I remember, I think there was an episode where she was trying to teach her to defend herself.
Yeah.
And Yor just did something that was what was it? She kicked a ball or something. And it was just, she was trying to teach her to play a game and she kicked a ball and it just went off into the sunset. And she's like, that's how you do it. And she's like, all right. And then you cut to Anya playing on the field and they're building up the music and everything. She's got it. And she's, Eye of the Tiger, and then misses that ball or doesn't even kick it all that far. And just like, oh,
yeah.
So a lot of that build up and everything that they put into the comedic elements like that, I feel like are some of the stronger points of the show.
Yes.
Where they play on those elements.
There's so many of it because I don't know if it's just because again, they haven't explained this part, but I don't know if it's just because Anya's still young that she doesn't know how to use her telepathy all that well or her telepathic abilities all that well. Because you would think that her being able to do that, she would ace every single test. But we know that's not true.
No. Because keeping her in that high grade bracket has been a constant boon for Lloyd, trying to figure out what he needs to do to teach her.
I love how they set it up, though, because I remember one episode, they're just studying their asses off, or Anya is, and they're getting her to study. And she's so cocky, she's going to ace that test. And then, of course, you're sitting there thinking, yeah, she can read minds. Of course she's going to ace it. And then she, barely fucking passes, and she's so proud of herself. And I think the thing that makes me love her so much is that's our fucking child.
Yeah.
One of my best memories of our kid is coming home and I'm looking through her papers and she had a B and I was like, good job. And she's like, and look at this one, and laid another paper and it was a D. And I was like, yep. She's like, are you proud of that one? I was like, yep, good job.
I mean, she tried.
She did. But it's just that innocence.
And that the balance they also do with the show a lot of the stuff we've talked about, a lot of the comedic elements, but there are a little bit more serious elements. It's leans more toward comedic, but there are the more dramatic elements. And that comes into the spy elements, the stuff that Lloyd has to do, and even what Yor is doing, because I feel like as she kind of got more into the mother role, they tempered her off. But I love how they do it, because there was that one episode where she had gone out to the grocery store, and I think they something happened where she got mugged or something happened with the groceries and she had to go after the people who were responsible.
Mm-hmm.
And she was trying to keep Anya out of sight so she didn't see what happened.
Yeah.
I can't remember if she got robbed or something like that, but it had something to do with that. And she was like, just wait 1 second. And then you see her go into this. It's not, I'm going to go kill them as an assassin. It's like, you just did something to my family and I'm going to beat the hell out of all of you.
Mm-hmm.
So you see her kind of twist her abilities into, I'm Big Mama and I'm going to protect my baby. And I love that element. And I want to see more of that. Like that it excites me.
That's one of the things I was literally going to talk about, because when Yor and Lloyd make their arrangement, Yor needed to get married because in their country, I'm guessing it's a lot like some Asian countries where it's a little frowned upon for somebody in their 30s to be unwed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that they bring up, is that she's in her 30s. She's not married. She doesn't date. She's, nobody. So when she meets Lloyd, he needs a wife and she needs a husband. So he was like, you know what? I need a wife so my daughter can get into this school. And I need, somebody to be a mom to my kid. And so as far as Yor knows, she's just there to play mom for as long as he needs her to. But as far as he knows, it's just, he gave this nice girl an opportunity to be married and get her brother and family off her back.
Yeah, and let's talk about her brother since you brought him up real quick, because this guy is an absolute creep as far as I'm concerned.
But I did want to talk about one thing before we go off on that, is even though these three, by the episode where Anya gets into school or they meet the heads of the school, I feel like this episode is a very powerful episode because, again, we don't know a lot about Anya. But as she's sitting there, there is this one professor who is an absolute fucking dick. And he's like degrading her. And Lloyd and Yor are just kind of sitting there, kind of getting irritated, but not like angry. But then the turning point is when the professor says something to Anya about her real mother.
Yeah.
And again, as far as Yor knows, Anya's real mother had passed away when she was a baby, all this kind of stuff. Lloyd's been raising her by herself. As far as Lloyd knows, she's never known her parents. And as far as we know, she's never known her parents. But that's the first real scene where you kind of get to see that Anya has a very traumatic childhood. And she starts to cry. And this is the part that makes you love Lloyd and Yor so much, because they are absolutely pissed the fuck off. And when Lloyd punches the table, it is one of the best things ever, because he has no attachment to her. At least he didn't think he does, but somewhere deep down you realize this man cares for this child.
Yeah.
But he has no reason to be attached to her. He has no reason, as far as he's concerned, once the mission's gone or done, she's gone.
Yeah.
He's not going to keep her. And I think that right there shows that there's just something about Anya, and maybe it's just that she's a small child, but still, he gets so angry and it makes me so happy. And I think those are some of my favorite episodes with them, is when you see them being angry on Anya's behalf, especially Yor, because you've had more episodes with her having to track down or beat somebody up who's hurt Anya, or, even threatened her or anything like that.
Yeah.
And she's, like you said, doing her absolute best to be a mom to this girl.
And for someone who is an assassin, okay,
Yeah.
that's the other thing too. For someone who is an assassin, who seems like, when you see her in action, she seems cold and calculated and has no fear. But it seems like her absolute fear is screwing up the family issue. Like, she wants to be a good cook. She wants to be a good mom.
Yes,
She wants
and
to be a
she's
good wife. And she's
horrible cook.
always trying her damnedest. Like, trying to put her best foot forward, but she's not built for it, or at least she doesn't feel like she is.
Yeah.
So she's always struggling. But again, in the assassin situation, it's like no problems whatsoever. She can handle it. She's done. She's got it. And that's an interesting dichotomy.
Yes. And it does make sense when you watch why Yor does have that kind of motherly side, because we do get to see more of Yor's past. I think we've got to see more of hers than Lloyd's or Anya's.
Yeah.
But she raised her little brother. Their parents, I can't remember if their parents like dipped out or if they died, but something happened to their parents and she raised her little brother, who has horrible, really fucked up issues around his sister.
Oh, yeah. Now, I don't want to speak ill of anybody or any country of people, but there does seem to be this weird, at least I consider it weird, obsession with incest in Asian countries. I've seen it in Korean films. I've seen it in Japanese films. It's not like it's always there, but it's not a topic that you see very much in American films, but yet I've seen it a bit in, certain films like I mentioned. So it made me kind of wonder. I was like, so is this a common thing in Korea and Japan or what?
I don't feel like their relationship is incest.
Well, again, I want to clarify that. We haven't gotten there, but he is very obsessive about her.
Yes.
When it comes to Lloyd, like super freaking jealous. Like,
he views his sister as somebody, like, he does not know his sister is an assassin. No. He himself is actually a police officer. Well, not technically a police officer. I think he's like a government type police officer or whatever. Who is
looking for Lloyd.
Yes.
Or Agent Twilight, as his handle is. He's looking for him and doesn't realize he's right there under his nose.
If I'm not mistaken, he also knows, same with Lloyd, knows about Yor's alter ego, which is the assassin name that she goes by, which I can't remember. I feel like it's something princess or something like that.
Hang on, we'll find it.
Anyway, he is obsessed with his sister, but I think it comes from the fact that she raised him. He knows that she sacrificed a lot, and now she's older and her life wasn't really going anywhere. And then all of a sudden there's a man that he didn't know about. There's a child he didn't know about. There's a whole situation he didn't know about, which I feel like is where a lot of the protectiveness comes from. But I think he also views his sister as somebody who is fragile, which is really weird to say because this is something you find out about Yor. She has fucking crazy strength to the point where she has literally broken her brother's ribs by hugging him.
Yeah.
And he loves it. That's the creepy part.
Yeah, it's
like when she smacks him, he loves it. She's horrible at cooking. Every time she cooks, it's like everybody just passes out or gets horribly sick, but he will eat it. Even though he's in horrible pain, and he'll do it with tears running down his face, but a big ass smile, and tell her how amazing it is and how perfect she is.
In fact, there was an entire episode with just that where she went to a work friend's house to learn how to cook. And whatever the first dish was that she made, he was just chant, "Oh, this is so good. It's so good." And just like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, he's crazy. But he loves his sister, and I don't think he loves his sister in the, deliverance type loving his sister.
I mean, no, I just... It gets weird. It gets a little creepy at times when he gets very, very obsessive and jealous. Especially when it comes to Lloyd. That's where it gets weird.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like he's jealous that Lloyd gets to be her husband. And it's just like, now granted, again, it doesn't go that far, but it's just the idea. Like the energy he's leaping out. It's like, this is your sister, dude.
Yeah.
You're not angry at him for being a bad husband. You're just angry that he's with your sister.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it boils down
And he
to.
resents Anya so much.
Mhm.
And she wants so bad to like be close to her uncle. And it's crazy. And then there's the one friend, Lloyd's friend.
Uncle, what does she call him?
Oh God.
Anya has a nickname for him, and I cannot for the life of me remember.
I can't remember. It's something like he hates it.
Yeah, but he loves her just the same. I think.
He like genuinely, which I feel like by the end of season 1, there's no doubt that Lloyd and Yor love Anya, even if Lloyd still in his spy brain doesn't accept it.
Sure.
Yor, if I remember correctly, there was kind of an episode where she kind of realizes she loves Anya. But the man who we're talking about is one of Lloyd's friends who is part of the spy network. And he always seems like he's annoyed when he's around her at first, but then you see them and they're doing stuff in the background or they're hanging out, and it's just like they have like this nice uncle-niece relationship. And the way that he will call Lloyd out when he treats Anya a certain way, because again, Lloyd's never had children.
Yeah.
At least Yor has had experience with younger children, but Lloyd, no. And his friend will call him out on that, on the fact of, dude, she's a little girl. Or she doesn't understand that. Or, you know, you need to be there for her.
Yeah. His name is Frankie.
Frankie.
And I feel like she calls him like Uncle Bushyhead or something like that.
Something like that. Because he's got like a little afro.
Yeah, like poofy hair and glasses. And I feel like it's some nickname like that, but I can't. I have to keep digging.
I don't know. The point is, there are really good
Scruffy
characters. Scruffy head.
That's it.
There are really good characters. There's a character we haven't even freaking touched on. Honorable second son.
Damien. Yeah. So
yes, Damien.
Damien is the son of the man that Lloyd is trying to get close to. And of course, the moment Anya and him meet, her goal is like, oh, that's the guy I got to get close to. I got to be friends with him. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what she sets her mind to, is to do that. Well, she comes off a little too aggressive in her way of trying to become friends with him, I guess, in a way. Like,
way too aggressive.
Where he's like, whoa. You know, you're just a little much for me. And they kind of have a little falling out. Of course, he's got 2 little lackeys, like most characters like this do.
Which are some of the ugliest goddamn children I've ever seen in anime.
And of course, all they do is whisper in his ear. And the funny thing about their relationship is they like one another.
Well,
but dislike each other. They like one another. No, Damien likes her.
Damien likes her. Anya is completely fucking oblivious to that fact. It's Anya's friend, the other little girl, who is like, oh my God, y'all love each other. But Anya has that one-track mind where she's like, I need to do this for my daddy. You know, I need to get close to the honorable second son, which is all she fucking calls him. It's so cute. But she does these little things that Damien finds cute, and you see him blush, you see him taken aback, all this kind of stuff, and he's starting to catch feelings, and he's realizing he's starting to catch feelings. However, she is completely ignorant to all of it. All she's worried about is getting close to him, so that way her daddy can get close to his daddy and he can achieve his spy goal.
And the fact that she even has that in her head at all times and still remains to be a less than average student.
Right.
You'd think that would be her goal. I've got to be the best student ever.
Yeah.
You know, that's my goal.
Well, no. She does try.
She does try.
That is her goal. She's going to get those comets or whatever in the hell they are. Shooting stars.
Shooting stars, yeah.
some shit. They're little pins that they get when they do good things. And I mean, that is her goal because she knows she has to get that to get close, you know, for her dad to get close to Damien's dad. But I don't know. There's just something. I honestly think she just doesn't pay attention. She's like that normal child where she wants to be a child. And this is probably one of the first real experiences she's ever gotten in being a child.
True.
But I feel like she's just very ADHD.
She seems a little unfocused a lot of times, and they struggle to get her to do her homework because she's too busy watching Bondman.
Yeah.
And
she hates homework.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely despises the homework.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's where I give Lloyd a lot of credit. He's rarely lost his temper with her, if at all. I honestly can't think of a time. It's like he understands his mission and he knows he can't blow up about it. He has to maintain focus and he's trying.
Because he has to keep her happy.
Right.
That's his thing. He knows if Anya's not happy, then the plan fails.
Right.
Because it's all centered around this 6-year-old child.
And even another thing, too, that I'm hoping will be explored because they touch on it a lot in season 1 and you get a sense of it, especially from the very beginning between Lloyd and Yor, that they are attracted to one another.
Oh, yes.
But it's almost like considering the situation they're in, they're just like, well, we're married, but we can't, be with one another. It's almost like they're living by the arrangement and trying to keep their feelings out of it, which I can understand to a point.
Yor is very, I can't say like shy. I honestly think she just has never had any type of
boyfriend.
Physical, interaction with a man outside of her hugging her brother.
And they do kind of touch on that, I guess, in her work setting with her gal pals.
Yeah,
she seems like she's the outsider. Yeah. Like she never has a date. She's never going out and they're always partying and talking about their relationships and what have you.
Because of her extracurricular activity.
Sure. But that, like we said, it just kind of makes her an outcast to the whole group. So she wants to be a part of that group. She wants to try and fit in, but she didn't have anything to relate it to until now. And even now, I think there were even episodes where you hear them talking about one thing. She's like, oh, y'all do that? And they're like, well, yeah, don't you? And she's like, yeah. And then she's trying to think about it. And then that just spirals into, well, I got to do this. Otherwise he's not going to be happy. And she gets in her head about it. But at the end of the day, Lloyd seems to have, like, he treats her, I guess, in the same way that he does with Anya, where it's kid gloves. Not gonna, be mad at her about anything. When she cooks the bad food, he's like, it's fine. It's fine.
And they did have an entire thing around that because Yor kind of spiraled out of control on the whole, well, if she doesn't cook for Lloyd well enough and all that kind of stuff, then he's, not going to want to stay in this arrangement.
Right.
And at first, when she kind of had those in-head discussions with herself, it was always, well, crap, if that happens, then my brother's going to be on my back and, we're not going to be able to do my assassin stuff and we're not going to be able to do this and all that kind of stuff. So it was always the arrangement. But I remember there's an episode where one of Lloyd's ex-partners come back and she's a woman. And this woman, no, she wanted to be Lloyd's partner. She wanted to be on the case.
Yeah.
She's the one that is head over heels in love with Lloyd.
Yeah.
But is stone face fucking cold.
About everything.
Yeah. Like you'd never know it. She never shows emotion. It's horrible. But, it all of a sudden it was Yor wasn't just worried about losing her position or like her safety net so she could still do her other stuff. It was more about Anya and Lloyd.
Yeah.
And actually being jealous that this woman was trying to weasel her way into their family and getting upset about it. and even Lloyd recognizing it and understanding like, oh shit, this is going to make Yor think, you know, I'm cahooting with this person and all this kind of stuff.
No,
But
that was I'd forgotten about that one, but yeah, that was it added some tension. So
did.
you really got to see how they all kind of genuinely felt about one another in their heads, regardless, because that's the one thing they've all yet to do is actually vocalize
that part,
their emotions toward one another.
Literally what Yor is trying to achieve, because if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the people she's taking out are people who are opposing like the peace between the two countries. And that is what Lloyd is supposed to be doing with getting to Damien's father, is trying to establish peace. They are trying to get peace between these two countries. Even Yor's brother, if I'm not mistaken, his whole thing is to find spies and stuff who they think are spying on them to take back secrets. So they're also trying to keep peace.
Yeah, they're all working.
They're all working towards the same fucking thing. But none of them know it, and they're all against each other. And the only person who knows it is the child who refuses to fucking tell anybody she can read minds.
Yeah.
And I can understand it, because you do kind of see why Anya is like that. Like, you get instances of, she had told people before, they thought she was crazy, send her back to the orphanage. She's had other families she was adopted into, and then just finally stopped getting adopted.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that's when Lloyd came. But like, the most we know about this child is, as far as we know, she was either born or at least raised partially in a lab.
Yes.
And they did some form of experiments with her, because Bond, the dog, was also from one of those labs.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever said specifically he was from the same one, but I feel like that the spy network knew something about the labs, because there was an episode with Bond. They take him to get him checked out and everything and make sure he's basically not a threat. And then Anya gets to take him. But if she would tell people, if she told Lloyd and Yor, I can read your minds. I know everything. I know you're a spy. I know you're an assassin. I know this is everything that's been going on this entire time. Also, our dog can tell the future. They would be like, she'd have a home forever.
Yeah.
Even if Lloyd didn't actually take her and raise her the rest of her life, or Yor take her and raise her the rest of her life, that spy network, them heads, that child hopefully would have a home for fucking ever, because we got to see the episode with the dog where the handler, the redhead, where she comes in and she meets Anya. And even like her exchange with her, I remember feeling uneasy with it at first, because I didn't know how she was going to react to Anya. Yeah. And you like, I swear to God, when you watch it, you have this like protection, like you want to protect this child at all fucking costs. But she talks to her and she treats her like she would her own child. And I feel like she even made a comment that she had a child or at once had a child or something like that. And there was even this hope that I was hoping, if, you know, the quote unquote parents, so, you know, the two she lives with, Yor and Lloyd, don't take her, that maybe one day she might take her. Yeah. Like, I just want Anya to live the rest of her life peacefully, be a child, because even though she still gets to do child things, because they do go out of their way to make sure she has some form of normal life. And even at school, she has a best friend and they go do things. But I don't know. You just like want her to like grow up and just be this really good person, because you know she'll be a really good person.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I want to happen, but at the same time, I appreciate what they're trying to do. They're trying to build to something, but so many times I would just like, please speak up, please say something. Like, you want them to know about one another, even if it's just a starting point with one. Like, I don't even know who I would want her to tell first, because I don't know who would take it the best and approach it properly. You know what I mean?
I really don't know either, because I feel like with Lloyd, he would automatically dismiss her unless she proved it. But I remember kind of early on, I remember him making a comment when she was doing something or had written something down he was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, can she read minds? And all of a sudden she was like, ah! Like, that's the other thing. Every time somebody like calls her out, even if it's in their head, calls her out or says something and it takes her back, she does like this freezing
and then tries to figure out a way to
appear stupid, basically.
Which shows how smart she is.
Yeah, because I think after that she had said something or wrote down something else that was like off the wall, and he was just like, no, that I'm just stupid.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm mistaken, it's fine.
But yeah, I don't know. I love this show, and I cannot wait for the next season.
Yeah, now season 2 technically is out now, but we have been watching the dubs, and we struggle with Crunchyroll. We have the subscription, but for whatever reason, that app is it's a nightmare. I don't understand why they can't get a good working app for it, but we're waiting for it to show up on Hulu, because that's where we watch season 1. Mm-hmm. When that comes back around, maybe we'll come back and talk about season 2. But I wanted to talk about it because this was an anime that neither one of us had gotten to see. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't me bringing it to you, you bringing it to me, because technically we have done that in some aspect. So this was something new for both of us. So we're actually getting to discuss it as a group, and not just like, well, this is what I thought and I've seen it 100 times. Yeah. Or whatever. We both watched it the same amount of times. We both have, our thoughts and feelings about it. And I just thought it would be an interesting dichotomy from everything that we discussed before, because this is new to us. And I'm genuinely excited to continue watching. I can't wait to see where they go with it. I don't know how long you could stretch this out. I mean, at the pace they're going, they could probably go like as far as One Piece, but I don't want them to do that. Keep your narrative tight, tell good stories, don't waste time, Yeah,
because at the end of the day, you only have one goal. Yeah. And even if you look at it, like, I don't want to see it go from Anya being 6 years old to fucking 16 or something, unless there's a time jump.
Sure, yeah.
I don't want to watch that many years of that child growing up. I love her, but damn.
Yeah. And even the way it's structured, I guess I want to touch on that too, based on what I was just saying. The way it's structured, it really has a very sitcom-y tone to it.
Yes.
If you think about it. I'll use Full House as an example, since that's something we've kind of been revisiting. If you think about a lot of sitcoms, they have what would be considered a ridiculous premise, but that's to make the comedy work. So in Full House, tragedy strikes, and a guy asks his brother-in-law and best friend to move in to help raise his daughters. Okay, do we know anybody like that? I sure as hell don't. Never have. It just sounds like an odd... conversation, an odd situation, but not saying it never happened. But it's outside the ordinary.
Closest you got was 3 men and a baby.
Yeah, same thing. Just a concept that just seems far-fetched.
Yeah, but they were already roommates before.
True.
These 3 became roommates after.
Right.
It's either way.
But again, you think about it from that standpoint. I feel like you could have pitched this as a sitcom. You could have came out and said, all right, so you have a spy who has to infiltrate a school, but he needs a kid and he needs a wife. So he's got to find a wife, he's got to find a kid, and then whatever happens there's the shenanigans. Go. Yeah. And then you got a sitcom. So I feel like this is adhering to a lot of that, because as I said, I don't feel like the story has progressed as far as like his mission being done, but I don't feel like they've wasted time either, because we've seen different scenarios and situations that they have to overcome while in this situation, how they're growing as a family, getting to know each other, dealing with their school problems. So there's a lot going on, a lot of character building, but as far as the goal, that has not really moved. So
Yeah, no.
I don't want to say it's a waste of time, because it's not, because we're getting to know the characters.
Well, I will say it has moved at least a tiny notch, because by the end of the first season, Lloyd did come face to face with Damien's
yes.
father. However, it was at the school, in public. Dude was surrounded by bodyguards. They got to exchange a handful of words, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like a full notch of, come over to my house sometime, which is what he's hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
But it was this man has seen his face. He knows that he is this child's father. He knows this child helped his son. Boom.
Right.
Granted, this man, and let's be frank, Damien's father is an absolute total piece of garbage, because he gives absolute zero shit about his own child.
And yeah, let's talk about Damien for just a split second, because with him and his stature in the school, kind of being, her Anya's antagonist, if you will, I don't feel like he's that much of a pain in the ass. I mean, he has his moments where you're just like, I want to slap that kid. But at the end of the day, especially when you see who his dad is, how he's being treated, you sympathize with him, and you kind of see where he's coming from, why he's acting the way he is.
Yep.
So he's not a punchable character.
No, he's still a 6-year-old.
Even though Anya gave him one.
Oh, yes. Anya did punch him, and that was one of the best things ever.
And she didn't just do it willy-nilly. By God, she held back as long as she could until she couldn't handle it anymore, and then just let it out. So I give her props for that. She tried her damnedest and then just got pushed a step too far. And I was just like, he earned that one.
Yeah.
So,
but then also Anya took a dodgeball to, was it the face or the stomach? I can't remember.
I feel like it was in the face.
She took a dodgeball, I think, to the face, trying to protect Damien during gym class.
Which was another funny episode. That was a good one.
It was. That fucking child who's supposed to be a fucking kid. He's like a whole grown man. The show has a lot of fun episodes. I really can't think of any that weren't fun.
Yeah.
There were several where you were just kind of like, you better not hurt Anya's feelings, but...
And I guess that's another thing I'd forgotten about until you mentioned that, but some of the structure of the episodes at times almost feel like 2 short episodes combined. Yeah. Like they have one story we follow for about 10 to 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. I'd say 10, because these run about 20 minutes at most.
Yeah, they're not very long.
So say you got 10 minutes, you're focused on one story, and then they'll cut and they'll focus on another story. Mm-hmm. So it almost feels like you went to another episode, but you're still within that episode. And I think there's even been times that we got to the credits and we had to wait because we realized there was something after the credits.
Yeah.
So, and it would be some scene that led into the next episode. Mm-hmm. So be aware of that if you've never watched it.
Yeah, definitely be aware. Sometimes you'll get little, things at the end where it's like next time on, blah, blah, blah.
Like most anime.
Some animes, they do have, that little mini cutscene after the credits. But yeah.
Yeah, this is a fun show, and I'm looking forward to season 2. I really want to check out the movie Spy Family Code White that is out. I think currently it's only in Japanese theaters, so we aren't privy to get it. But I've heard rumblings that they're going to release it over here at some point, hopefully soon, within the next couple of weeks.
I hope so.
But I don't know. And from what I also have heard about that, if you're unfamiliar with it, you don't have to be privy to the show to watch it. It almost sounded like a standalone type thing that you can kind of enjoy outside of the series. So it's like it's established, like if you want to know what's going on, but it's not going to affect the greater part of the show story.
Yeah.
So something like that. But I still want to see it because I've heard some pretty good things about it. So I'm looking forward to that too. But no, I highly recommend it.
Yes,
I think it's a fun
100%.
show. So if you've never seen it, get out there and check it out.
So far for season 1, I would give it a 10 out of 10 because I can't think of anything that was actually bad about it.
Even the music was good.
Oh yeah,
Like
the
opening
freaking music, the music, the characters, the under storyline, and not just the main storyline of what their end goal is, but finding out more about Lloyd, finding out more about Yuri, finding out more about Anya.
Yeah.
Like, that's the shit that, God, I can't wait. I cannot wait to find out about her. I cannot wait for them to learn about each other. Because at the end of the day, they would all three benefit from each other. They would be like the top tier freaking spy assassin team of all time.
And I genuinely think that's what the writers are well aware of. Like, they know that if they learn that, that changes the dynamic of everything. So when do you introduce that? When do you make that move?
It's like they're the A team without knowing they're the A team.
Because they do. Anya does whatever she can to help them without letting them know if she can.
That was something I wanted to point out. The episode where Bond foresaw Lloyd blowing up.
Yeah.
That was something I wanted to touch on when we were talking about how Anya could be super smart, because she runs off with the dog. They spend all freaking day trying to find this tower or get to this tower. They get there. She crawls through a window, knowing not to open the door because she knew that the door would trigger the bomb. This 6-year-old child crawls through a window and tries to disarm a bomb. And it's heartbreaking when she realizes that she's 6 years old and knows absolutely fucking nothing about bombs.
Yeah. But her heart was in it and she's trying.
Exactly. But she left clues. As literally, I feel like she painted on the door or something. And at first Lloyd was like, but then he noticed something was off. And then he got up and looked through the window and saw that there was a bomb. She literally saved her father's life, and he will never fucking know about it.
Nope. Unless she tells him.
Unless she tells him.
But when will that happen? Who knows?
Exactly.
Could be several seasons. But show the episode count. That's another thing too. It's like a full season.
Yeah.
You know, like, I know that a lot of stuff now, I don't know how anime works as far as their seasons normally go, or at least new, because I know that some, like we mentioned, One Piece has gone on for a decade or more or so. 1,000 episodes, that's ridiculous. Anyway, unless you're a soap opera. But
no, that's still ridiculous even for a soap opera.
But that's one of those things that's just every day. I know.
Doesn't matter.
I know. But in a situation like this, I think it was like 26 episodes for the first season, which that runs about like an old sitcom from the 80s, you know, so it's a pretty beefy open season. I think season 2 is also the same way, so hopefully
which is
we'll get
nice.
That soon. Yeah.
Unlike Demon Slayer, who, you know, put out several episodes for the first season, then the second season they just split up a fucking movie into 2 parts. And then for the third season, I think we got like 8 episodes. Pisses me off.
I got it. Yeah, some of these companies and their greed and whatever.
Either wait and put it all out at once, or don't do that fucking many episodes.
I get it. But
make them longer, something. Damn.
I agree. But
anyway.
Yeah, that's all I got to say about this. Highly recommend. Looking forward to more.
Yes, 100% recommended. I think it was fun. It's exciting. It will tug at your heartstrings and
make you laugh.
Oh, yes, it will definitely make you laugh. Just thinking about it makes you giggle.
They're a fun family, fun bunch of characters.
Yes. All of my weaves, I really hope you enjoyed this special episode. We will have another special episode coming out, which will be Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Yep. Stephen actually watched all of it. We binge watched that shit.
And we wanted to, since it was still fairly fresh from last season, figured let's just go ahead and knock it out, talk about it, and that'll kind of be like an epilogue to that. And we'll get into all that when we chat about that one next week.
Yes. So definitely join us then. But until then, Stephen, do you want to lead us out?
You know where all the links are. They're in the little comment section down below, or all that jazz. We got Patreons, we got Spotify links, polls, the whole nine. And go to pencilpaperproductions.com/inspired. Weeaboo if you just want to keep up with any and all things that we got going on. Be sure to let us know. 5-star reviews, help the show grow, tell your friends, all that stuff.
All right, my little weebs. We will see you next time.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.